Hello everyone, welcome to day 8 of 25 days of talking about mental health awareness, personal development I suppose as well is the things that we're talking about. And really I want to talk about a few things today, but really the sort of the overarching talk about today is to do with motivation. And particularly the motivation to change what we do, how we look at things, how we do things. So the two main ways that we are motivated to change is either through fear of failure or expectation of gain. And most of our change process is based on fear of failure. We don't do things so that we don't fail. We change the way that we do things so that things, happen for us. Very rarely do we set our goals, our processes, etc., on an expectation of gain. And what I mean by expectation of gain, I don't mean like money, etc. I mean more about us growing. Okay. So, but again, fear of failure is a good motivator for a certain amount of time. And sometimes some of the biggest changes people have done in their lives is through failing and then fear of that failure repeating itself. However, what I want to sort of focus on really is that sort of expectation of gain, really. The responsibility for the future is yours. The responsibility for your change process is yours. The responsibility for you to grow is yours. Okay. And what I mean by that is that we sit sometimes with a feeling that we are powerless, that we don't have the power to change what's happening to us. We don't have the money, the time. People will laugh at us, people will judge us. We've got a family, we've got people that rely on us. All of these are normal excuses to step outside our comfort zone. Our comfort zone is the thing that we have around us on a day-to-day basis, that process. But particularly where we are looking at mental health and wellness, and particularly I'm going to look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs in a moment. I'm just going to sort of highlight that. I did post a picture up just at the start of this, but I'll show the picture in a moment. Where we are, particularly on that sort of hierarchy of needs, says a lot about our motivations to change. And it may just be the fact that we are expecting things to change just around us without us doing anything different. Well, that's not going to happen. So a change process is going to be hard work. Change process takes you to motivate yourself on a daily basis. You can do certain things. You can gain certain tools. You can have books, which I'll show tomorrow when we do the goal setting stuff. You can have little cards, you can have affirmations, but it takes you to get off your backside to actually do something. So you need to take responsibility for your future. You need to take responsibility for your future change process. So I'm just going to flash this picture up now in front of the screen, if you can see that. Yeah, so there we go. So that's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And I'll just leave it there for a moment, okay? Okay, so then we're going to go through Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Maslow was a psychologist, studied psychology, and studied people's motivations. And what Maslow theorized was that there's a pyramid of needs that we have. And our base needs need to be met, not completely, but most of the time, before we can then move up the scale. And what I'll do is I'll just, if I can try and hold that up while I read through some of these. So, right at the bottom there, you can see, yeah, physiological needs. Physiological, yeah, so that's the basic needs of shelter, food, water, clothing, those sorts of basic needs. And where they're not met, we can't then move up to the next level. The next level being safety. Okay, so safety, a feeling of safety, yeah, a feeling of being looked after, a feeling of being secure, and particularly in childhood, this might sometimes have an issue. We might have an issue. Sometimes there's abandonment issues, etc. Particularly because of particularly a good way that things can go wrong for you is if you have a perception of feeling abandoned as a child. Okay. Third on the list, love and belonging. Yeah, so love and belonging. So not necessarily physical relationships, although that is all part of the love and belonging. But not just receiving love, but being able to give love as well. So being in a relationship with other people, not necessarily a close relationship, but also feeling that you can pass on love to others and having that sort of reciprocated. Number 4, so getting right above that now, is self-esteem, self-worth. And particularly somebody's mentioned recently something to bring up, how do we handle self-esteem, self-worth? Well, it's normally by having the rest of those things in place. Having your physiological needs, feeling safe, feeling you're in a loving reciprocal relationship, either through friends and family, through the things that you do, and they're not exclusive. There's things that do cross over. And then finally, if we manage to get all of those things in place, we have what we call self-actualization, where we give to society, we give to people without any fear or feeling that will be rejected. We just give it out of a sense of who we are and what we do. And theoretically, not many people achieve that, because most of the time we are actually doing the things that we do for a need of some of the other things. But that's not to say that it doesn't happen, and it's not saying that it doesn't happen for some people on a regular basis, and it might then be a fleeting thing that they then feel that they've achieved that thing, and then move on. Okay, so for example, somebody that does caring, caring for other people. So that might be part of their physiological needs, so that it provides them money so that they can then have a job, etc. It also might have a feeling of belonging, so it's belonging to a group of people, and it also might be good for their self-esteem. Okay, so there's sometimes one or two things can just add to that sort of stuff. Okay, so where mental health, I suppose, is impacted with the hierarchy of needs is where some of our needs are not met. And again, I'll just touch on some things that some people have mentioned there from their experience. So homelessness. Okay, so if somebody suddenly becomes homeless as part of relationship breakup, financial worries, etc., situations break down, not only will that impact their relationship with the people around them, not only will that impact their physiological needs, but it will also impact their safety. So while they're focused on being homeless and creating a new physiological need of shelter, of finding somewhere to live, they can't really focus on other things. So it might impact their feeling of safety, of feeling secure, not quite sure where they're going to stay, not going to quite sure if they do get somewhere to stay, how long they can stay there. And they're certainly not going to be thinking about how the loving relationships and passing love on to other people is going to be part of that. So it was going to impact how their persona is going to be seen as well. So particularly where we have people that suffer psychological issues, maybe some sort of conditions, lots of things are then impacted. If their need for money is the highest thing that they need, they're not really going to be investing a lot of time and effort into relationships. They're going to be using those relationships to get their needs met. Okay, so it's understanding where people are, particularly if you are holding space for some people. And I want to sort of touch again on, we're going to be talking about some actual conditions next week. Okay, in between the other bits and pieces, we're going to be talking about depression and anxiety. We're going to talk about panic attacks. We're going to be talking about suicide, etc. I just want to make this sort of, from my perspective, we're not here to fix people. We can't fix anybody. We're not here to fix somebody that is depressed. We're not here to create joy in their life because they're depressed. What we're here to do is to understand. What we're here to do is to hold space. What we're here to do is to raise awareness of these issues so that somebody has the courage to speak out, saying that they are at a place where they are suffering. Again, it might be impacting some of their needs in life, and it might be fairly obvious to you that they are suffering. But again, you're not there to say, you're looking a bit depressed, etc. It's not you to say that. It's the other person to say, I'm struggling with stuff at the moment. And then for you to understand that that is part and parcel of what they're doing and where they are. Okay? So the motivation to change. So we're looking at these needs in place. So I want people to do a few things today. One of the things is look back at this week where you are. So we've gone all the way from being aware of saying good things about ourselves so that we can maybe build on our self-esteem. Maybe look at some of the things around our self-talk. Where does that self-talk come from? Is it positive? Is it negative? Is it something that we feel that we can change? We need to change. We've recognised that what we're saying to ourselves is really quite damaging to us over a long period of time. It's only since we've just realised and obviously looked at this that we can sort of see that. So we might want to change that. We looked at our story. Yeah, what do we say about ourselves? Who do we think we are? What are the things that have happened in our life that the labels we give ourselves, the people around us that think that we are? Is that something that we want to change, or is that something we want to add to, rather than just being a partner or a parent? Is that a secondary need that you need to replace now? Maybe sometimes when things change. Children move on, relationships change. You have to change the way that you perceive that part of you in that sort of relationship, in the family or wherever it is. So there's going to be a part of you that wants to add to your story, okay, for the future. It may be that you've realised that thinking about some of the things that we spoke about yesterday, about sort of where we are and that sort of feeling of belonging, etc. How does that impact? Okay. Thinking about the motivation to change. Where are we at the moment? Are we in a situation where, yeah, I really want to change. I want to add some things to my life. I want some positive change coming through. Or is there a need to change? With coming out of coronavirus, is there a need for you to think about life differently? I know that a lot of people worried about jobs and how things are going to work out. Me personally, the outdoor work, not sure whether that's going to be the same, how that's going to take off. First aid training, which I normally do, one-to-one, face-to-face stuff, how is that going to work? No idea. Okay, but it's about, okay, we have options, we have things that we can look at. And when we look at our goal books and writing goals tomorrow, then we can sort of build in some of the things that we're looking at, of building maybe some safety into our lives in the future, making sure that our physiological needs will be met. Okay, if we're being challenged in a way which we've never been challenged before, making sure that we have those difficult discussions with people around us, that we want to try and provide some differences in our life. We want to work on our own self-esteem. How do we do that when maybe the future is uncertain? The fear of failure is the thing that might hold you back. Because you've got people that rely on you. Again, it might be that we need to have some conversations with people and be clear about what the future will be like. So the process, I suppose, and there's all sorts of curves and shapes and things, but we sometimes sit in denial, I think, and denial is not a river in Egypt All right, denial is where we say that everything is okay. Yeah, everything's been fine up to this point. Everything's going to carry on. Everything's still going to be okay in the future. Well, it may or may not be. Okay, and resilience, particularly around mental health, awareness of conditions that can raise their heads, being aware of that. Okay, not necessarily going to stop it. You know, we're still going to have fear. We're still going to have maybe anxieties. People are still going to feel depressed at times. You know, that's one of those things that happens. What we're trying to do is make ourselves more aware, make ourselves more resilient personally, so that if we do get into a process where we can recognize some of those signs and symptoms of things not working out, then we can do something about it. And one of those things is to speak. One of those things is to ask for help. And again, if we feel that we've got low self-esteem, we're not in a loving relationship, etc., there's a challenge against our physiological needs, we're not likely to speak out very often. We're going to hold it to ourselves. We're going to be in fear. Okay, so what I want to say, you know, sort of wrapping it up, you know, the denial stage, that's the first stage. We need to accept that there's something that we want to change. Okay, and as we mentioned, you know, yesterday, sometimes it's holding on to unhealthy feelings, you know, forgiving people in the past, but moving on. Okay, there might be some anger there. There might be some fear. That's okay. We can sit with that. Okay. Once we've accepted that, though, once we've accepted it, what we don't want to do is then just sit in our pit of worry and self-pity and keep going around in circles. But what you need to do then is think about change, process of change, making stepping out of the process, getting better at looking at the future. And by looking at the future, we have a more positive outlook. We have a future that may or may not be very clear to us. It may hold fears for us. But by looking at the process of change, by looking at a process of looking at ourselves and building on those skills that we have, and maybe looking at where there's gaps and filling those gaps with some training and personal development, maybe reading some books, looking at some courses online, speaking to other people, yeah, self-affirmations, that sort of stuff. We can start to build that process. We can start to build on our hierarchy of needs so that in the future we can then move up our levels. We can start to build and make ourselves feel that we are progressing in the right way. We are proceeding forward. We're moving forward. We're not stagnant. We're not sitting there waiting for things to happen. We're looking for opportunities. We're creating opportunities by being focused on the future. Okay, and that process ultimately leads to us changing. And again, I'll mention again, just because something doesn't work out doesn't mean to say we haven't gained something. You know, the goal books that I've written, countless goal books, you know, are maybe, I would say, between 25-50% of all those goals that I've written have achieved success so far. Okay, the other ones either became irrelevant, were unachievable the way that I'd written them, or suddenly didn't become very important to me. So they fell by the wayside. But that doesn't mean to say that by proceeding towards that goal that I didn't gain something from that. We're adding to our skill set. We're adding to our personal development strength. We're adding to our resilience. We're adding to our self-esteem. We're adding to the process where, you know, things didn't work out. That's okay. We'll dust ourselves off. We'll carry on. Again, we're suffering a few knockbacks, accepting that things didn't go well, forgiving whatever the process was, moving forward into a process of change, and then moving forward again, looking at the next goal. Okay, so wrapping it up there. Anybody got anything they want to throw up on there on the front there? It's hi Phil. Yeah, so a few people there logging in again. So tomorrow we're going to be looking at the process of change. We're going to be looking at how to write goals, how to write goals that are effective. So the effective process of change. And if you're one of those people that think that you don't need to write them down, yeah, you don't need to write them down at all. Interesting statistic, 99% of people do not write goals. They don't. Yeah, so they don't write goals. They have, wishes, etc. And they are just wishes, okay? Once you write a goal, it becomes something that is physical. Yeah, it's created. It's now a physical manifestation, shall we say, of your wish, your desire, okay? So 99% of people do not write physical goals. They don't write them down. However, 1% of the population of the world have a level of success. And those 1% are the people that actually write physical goals. They write what their wishes and desires are. And they don't write them in a certain way to get some sort of success. And again, you can write there, I want to be a multimillionaire by the time I'm 25 and you're 24 now. Well, unrealistic. Some people that have been through business training looking at SMART goals. We're going to be a bit more sophisticated than looking at SMART goals, but they do need to be smart. Yeah, they need to be realistic. Okay. And maybe you're skeptical. Okay. Well, the way that we're going to look at writing these goals, committing to goals, it is a commitment. It is a way for you to start to move from where you are. And again, if you've got a set of goals that you want to achieve, how long are you going to work at them until you achieve them? If it's something that you really want to do, and I've discussed it with people I've coached in the past. For argument's sake, if you wanted to be a brain surgeon, and it's the only thing you've ever wanted to be doing, and you didn't do well at school, so you go to night school, and you go to the Open University, and eventually you get a place in medical school, and eventually you get a place at a hospital, and then you become an intern, and then you start to do all those sorts of things. How long would you work at that if that's all you ever wanted to do? 5 years? 10 years? 15 years? 20 years? Your whole life? Your life work? Yeah. If you commit to something, it becomes your life work. So not just give it, I'll give it a couple of weeks and see how it turns out. If you commit to something that is going to change your life well for the future, you commit to it and you become a changed person by committing to that, by making that decision. Right, so I'll wrap it up there. And any sort of points people have got there, please put them on the comments. We will be looking at goal setting tomorrow, so make sure if you want to sort of go through the process, you've got paper and pen handy, or afterwards go back over the video tomorrow, going through the process. But I will be going through a step-by-step process of writing effective goals, goal setting, and the process of change. Okay, enjoy your evening, guys. See you tomorrow.